Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to today's video, and so this one I kind of want to just go back over some old news and just kind of elaborate more on it and what could have been had Google kept Motorola. Now you guys remember back in 2012 Google decided to buy Motorola for, I believe it was 12.5 or somewhere around there, 12.8, 12.5, around there, billion, okay? And that was a massive purchase. Now back then, major tech articles being written, coming out the woodwork, talking about fear of other partners of Android feeling like, you know, Motorola was going to get the goods. I mean, because that was what a lot of people were really talking about. You know, it was either A, Google was going to show favoritism to Motorola because they owned it, or, you know, B was that other partners such as Samsung, which everyone was in fear of at that time because Samsung was already starting to talk about Tizen, which is their operating system, which runs on Galaxy Gear watches, that they were going to have that moved over to their Galaxy devices. So there was a lot of fear in that back then. People were really worried about those types of things happening. And so not long after the acquisition of Motorola, Google sold Motorola for $2.91 billion. So they took a $10 billion loss. Sold it to Lenovo, and thus Motorola is now owned by Chinese company Lenovo. But my thing is that why did Google do this? And what would have Motorola been right now if it stayed under the Google umbrella, thus under the major umbrella of Alphabet Inc.? Because today, Motorola devices are well received. We have them all coming out the woodwork. You have the E5 series kicking butt out there right now on all major prepaids and postpaid carriers. You have the G6 series, which was well received. And of course, the Play editions of those, which is dumbed down specs. But then you have the Z3, which is making headlines right now. And even prior to that, I mean, you have devices like the X4, which is one of my favorite devices to use. And there's a lot that Motorola has done in the last, couple of years being under Lenovo. And makes you wonder what would have been like if Google had kept Motorola. Because we can't say like it was a great move for Google then. With all the fear talks of, Google being biased and playing favoritism to Motorola, I mean, they ended up buying a division of HTC and brought all those developers over to start building the Pixel devices. And so what would it have been if Motorola was the one to actually...
The answer is 0.5.
But anyhow, they bought a division of HTC, builds Pixel. So what would it have been if Motorola did it? How would that have all worked out? It's crazy to see exactly where things end up in the timeline and in the long run. But for me, I honestly felt like that, that Google should have never sold Motorola. I mean, Motorola builds very good devices. Even though it's under the Lenovo umbrella, it builds very good devices. I got to give them that. And the fact that they prefer to use a close to near stock Android experience than having, UIs laid up on top of it, skins to bog down the phone. That's a real big thumbs up in my book. Way back in the day when rooting and putting custom ROMs on phones, that was the reason that people did it, was because, they wanted a Samsung device, but they didn't like TouchWiz. They wanted, a pure vanilla Android experience. Ended up going and downloading custom ROMs that were based off of AOSP and just installing it on their Samsung devices. Same with LG devices and even with HTC devices that was running Sense. So a lot of people didn't really like or didn't like the performance of a device that had a real heavy skin on top of it. And so that's the thing that Motorola was different from all the others, was the fact that it catered to a near stock Android experience. Even Moto Blur wasn't too heavy of a skin, if you guys remember what Moto Blur was. It wasn't too heavy of a skin, very mediocre, and still kind of lean towards stock Android. And even till today, that's what people are running and gunning for. I mean, you have the fact that you can download the Pixel launcher on top of your Android smartphone and give it that Pixel stock Android look. People tend to do that. So Android is well received amongst the Android enthusiasts in the community of people who love Android. And Motorola fit the bill with that. You know, it gave you something that you could look into and say, wow, that's pretty crazy. So, again, scratch my head pondering, why did Google sell Motorola? They could have kept Motorola, their in-house, you know, hardware maker for Android, and everything would have been fine because no one's really making a big stink about it right now. Also, to throw on top of all this side topic here, we're talking about software updates. I get a lot of questions asked about it. You know, what's the deal with software updates? Why are we getting them? And I made several videos talking about, you know, real in-depth reasons why, and, you know, hardware makers such as LG and Motorola and all them, they don't pump out a lot of software updates. Interesting article that, you know, I read earlier, and it was talking about Android fans are starting to see the biggest flaw in Android, and that's lack of software updates compared to Apple and iOS. But here's the thing with that. Apple, again, everything is in-house with Apple. Apple controls it all. They control the hardware, they control the software, so they can easily pump out software updates like nothing because it's their own product that they're updating. Whereas on Android comes a whole fragmentation thing. It comes a whole thing with different manufacturers and them deciding whether to put out the software updates. I mean, yes, they do have to come up with software updates as far as security patches. That is a necessity of it. But as far as like major software updates, like moving a device from 7.0 Nougat to 8.0 Oreo to like 9.0, whatever it's going to be, if it's going to be Popsicle or whatever, the OEMs actually kind of have that control there. I mean, yes, Android is open source. They, you know, Google makes Android, put it out there for everybody. You know, it's baked with all its goodness, and then the manufacturers take that and throw their skin on top of it and whatever else features that, you know, their hardware is going to require, and put it out there for all of you if they choose to do that. But most of them don't, because they figured if they're going to go ahead and get the latest version of Android, it would make sense business-wise, money-wise, to build a brand new, you know, piece of hardware for everybody to go and buy. Because technically, at the end of the day, whether people complain and complain and complain and complain, they're going to go buy it. And so they know that, and that's how they make their money. Simple as that. However, things will change if, not if, but when Project Fuchsia actually comes through. So once Project Fuchsia comes through, we're going to see an entirely new, different type of operating system with a whole new set of rules. Because since Project Fuchsia, which is the code name for this operating system that Google is working on, is going to be locked down. It is not going to be open source like Android is. And like I said, that's a good and bad thing. Bad thing for developers out there who love to build custom ROMs for smartphones that are released every year. Good thing in the fact that it's going to really kill fragmentation because, yeah, Google will have full reins on top of it. So anyways, guys, that's just pretty much it for this episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section of the video. As far as, do you guys think Google should have kept Motorola? Do you think that they should have, used that as their in-house hardware manufacturer? Were you guys ever concerned that there would be favoritism involved or, a biased treatment? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section of this video. As far as software updates, everybody, look, it is what it is, right? If you have a real big bone to pick it with the OEMs. But even then, they're not listening because they're too busy counting the dollars that's rolling in. Again, guys, thanks for checking out today's video. I really appreciate that. Drop a like if you guys enjoyed the subject at hand. And yeah, my name is Tito, and I'm out.